Hi guys, my name is Lucy and I really like reading books. I really like talking to people about books as well, so I thought I would start making videos about all the books that I enjoy. And this is my very first video, and it'll be about the nonfiction books that I came across and really liked during this year. Hope you enjoy. My stack here was getting kind of wobbly, so I've got the very first book in my hand. It's called Fortune's Children, and the subtitle is The Fall of the House of Vanderbilt, written by Arthur T. Vanderbilt II. I assume he is a descendant of the family. I really think the title should be The Rise and Fall of the House of Vanderbilt. It starts off talking about the Commodore, or Cornelius Vanderbilt, who is the patriarch of the family, who started the fortune all on his own. His name is the Commodore because he used to like row people in a sailboat like back and forth on the Hudson River. So I mean, that changed to steamboats, and then later on, they really made the whole family fortune on railroads. So they were part of the Railroad Kings, if you're familiar with that part of American history. I would really recommend this book to anyone who's interested in the Gilded Age, because the way that this family spent money building houses and the descriptions of all of these places that no longer exist because these were all Fifth Avenue addresses that were later on knocked down. There is, however, I think Vanderbilt Castle that is still in existence today, and this is actually on my to visit list if ever I get to go. If you've read and really enjoyed this book, I really recommend The Medicis, which is along similar lines as well. Multi-generational family saga. So where this one is American Railroad Kings Gilded Age, this one is Italian Renaissance banking family, a lot of political intrigue, and also very well written. This one I think was published in 2016 or 2017. So the next book that I wanted to talk about is this one. It's called Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World. It's written by Jack Weatherford. Another well-researched book, very easy to read, and fairly short as well. So what really struck me the most was not really, the successes of all the various military campaigns, which we all know and expect, especially in Eastern Europe and in China. But really in the beginning parts, the first half of the book, talking about his early adulthood and childhood. This was not someone who started out with much of anything really in life. So not someone that you would bet to really be a winner. Like, this is how much more epic can a life get is the question. What really interested me was how he had to come up with a lot of original rules, original thinking of how to organize his group, because it grew so much in terms of population that a lot of new things that needed to be done for it to run efficiently and to extend its capacity in terms of military power, and also just making sure that everybody in the group had something to contribute to, something to do in a very organized fashion. So very interesting read. I have a feeling that I'll pick this up again later down the line. Moving on to the next book, it's called Period Power, written by Maisie Hill. So with the wave of feminism, I really wanted to learn a little bit more about my own body. I researched, there was another book about periods, I think that came out earlier in either 2020 or 2021, but this was an earlier book that was even more highly recommended. So this was amazing. I wish I read this when I was, a teenager. I learned so much, and I'm normally not a highlighter, but there were a lot of takeaways. I'll just mention two things. So one thing that may seem basic to people today, that is the basal body temperature. So you could literally measure your own temperature, your resting temperature. So the first thing you wake up, before you even get up from bed, that temperature measured under your tongue every day you could see the cycle and really see when your ovulation period is. So that was something that I didn't know. That always seemed like a science. You see in movies and shows that people are buying tests to check, oh, when am I ovulating? When am I not? So that I haven't done it myself, but just knowing that that's there as a resource is just really empowering. So this book splits up the period by the four phases into metaphorically the four seasons, and that cycles every single month. There's a lot of tidbits, takeaways from this book. It talks about the various hormones. How are they different? How do they change? How do they change throughout the cycle within your body? How that impacts your emotions and moods. And also even talking about food as well as, you know, a source of nutrition. One thing I didn't know about was something called the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. These are lists published by agricultural industry groups, talking about, you know, the most heavily pesticide used foods, and also the foods that are the cleanest, the ones that have the least amount of pesticide use. So, you know, if you don't want to buy organic everything, or if you're like me, a little bit of a skeptic in buying organic everything, those are very good resources to check out as well. So I really, really recommend this book to all women, especially. So the next nonfiction that I really enjoyed reading is this one. It's called Finding the Mother Tree by Suzanne Simard. I lost the sleeve on this one. I'm not sure where it went, but I came across a mention of this book based on something I read last year, which is another amazing book. It's called Braiding Sweet Grass by Robin Wall Kimmer. But just going back to Finding the Mother Tree, this is really this is Suzanne Simard sharing her life and work with us in equal measure. And I mean, I wouldn't qualify this as a feminist book as well, but this is just an example of someone who is pursuing her full professional career and intellectual curiosity, and, you know, full force following that and making contributions to the field whilst trying to manage her marriage and family and kids at the same time. So a really valuable read. I really appreciate that she injected parts of her personal thoughts and history in here as well. She is the one who introduced the idea of mycorrhizal connections. So the idea that tree roots are connected via fungi. So I think that's like way oversimplifying everything, but that's an idea that we sort of take for granted today. I hear that idea, you know, mentioned in various other shows and books as well. And I think there is more recently a Netflix documentary on that. Like, I think it's called Fabulous Fungi, Fantastic Fungi, something like that. Very cool documentary. But going back to the book, it's very long, and I wouldn't recommend it for someone who is not particularly interested in trees and nature. So I myself have always really loved trees, and I really liked anything about trees. So reading through this was like sitting through a lecture almost on how she was trying to prove a hypothesis about these trees, which is really fascinating. Taking an idea that we take for granted, she had to go through the full process of coming up with that thought and putting in a hypothesis and actually making the experiment, and, you know, waiting years and years to prove the results and see the results and see for herself. Not, you know, because all of this in the beginning, no one had thought that there was anything to do, that fungi had anything to do with the support systems of the trees between themselves, between species. These ideas were just, I think, were groundbreaking. I think that is still like an understatement. So this book, yeah, it is exactly like a really long lecture, but dotted with personal anecdotes, and you hear it from the person who has been in the field all of this time, trying to understand understand these species, all of these interconnections, and explaining them to us and telling us at the same time what her thoughts were, what things were going on in her life, and a little bit about her family history. So the best of both worlds, science and life. That's Suzanne Simard. The last nonfiction book I'll mention that I really enjoyed reading in 2021 is called Essays, and it's written by Lydia Davis. This is part one. I think she has part two out, and I will definitely be picking that up. This is written in very short chapters. So if you're someone who doesn't like to read long chapters about things that you have to keep remembering from previous chapters, I would really recommend this one. She breaks up commentary about actual, literary forms, the different types of writing, and her views on various writers, and also it's not really even just constrained to literary work, but she makes commentary on visual artwork as well. And then interspersed in the middle, I think there was some very good pieces on advice to young writers. So if you're someone who really enjoys writing and disseminating words and why things are written this way, and that we should give some really good examples of things that she edited herself, pre-edit, and then how she edited it and why she made those cuts or changes, and what impact does it have to the actual piece of writing. A lot of that in between work, editorial work, that really makes a piece like a brand new thing, where we normal that process that as readers we don't really get to see. So she is someone who, I think she has won awards for her own writing as well, and at the same time she is a really famous translator. So I'll be picking up some of her translations as well for sure next year. So that's all the nonfiction works that I've managed to read and really enjoy in 2021. Thank you for hearing me ramble about all of the titles. And if you have any thoughts or recommendations, I would really like to hear from you. So please leave me a comment. Have a great day. Thanks.